Hello, everybody, and welcome into this Thursday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. I want to start today by thanking you so much for all of the comments, the subscriptions, the likes. It has meant a lot, especially as we are just on day 12 of this new endeavor. So thank you so incredibly much. It hasn't gone unnoticed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to do so. But just wanted to shout you out and thank you so much for the support up until this point. It certainly means a lot to me. But enough of that. Let's move forward with more fun stuff, talking about some Packers. I just finished up my grades for the week, the offense and the defense. And while there were multiple things that stood out to me, 1A on my list was the players and the amount of players that had really positive grades from this week's performance against the Lions. So I don't usually get too much into the minutia of what the grades mean and the numbers and things like that, just because it's kind of a boring topic. But if you have a plus 1.0 grade or better, you've had a really good day. And the thing that stood out to me this week were there were 8 Packers that had plus 1.0 or better grades this week, and 2 more actually were 0.95 exactly. So almost 10 Packers who had that plus 1.0 grade or better, which again is a really impressive day. Those 8 Packers were Jair Alexander, Kevin King, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Robert Tonyan, which I want to jump into more in just a minute, David Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley, Elton Jenkins, and then the 2 that were at 0.95 were Devontae Adams, even in limited playing time with the injury, and Chandon Sullivan, who of course had the pick 6. So a couple takeaways there. One, have to be excited for what Jerry Gray did with that cornerback group this week. Still early returns. Week 1 was a little bit up and down, but week 2 to have 3 performers in Sullivan, King, and Alexander who all graded that well. Even Josh Jackson had the nice pass breakup in very limited snaps, and Kadar Hallman, again, also played limited snaps, but looked good in those 5 or 6 snaps-ish as well. So really nice day by the cornerback group. You love to see 3 players on the offensive line grade at 1.0 or better. Again, Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley, and Elton Jenkins. Linsley had a phenomenal day. David Bakhtiari was his normal self, as was Elton Jenkins, and Rick Wagner had a nice game too. So some really nice performances, but the one I want to dig into even a little bit more is that Robert Tonyan grade, because he was one of only 2 players I had on offense graded in the negative a week ago. We all know Robert Tonyan, along with Tim Boyle, Chandon Sullivan, those are kind of my guys, but Robert Tonyan's had some ups and downs. 2018, he just did a phenomenal job of making the roster. It's kind of his redshirt season. 2019, he got in a little bit more. Again, kind of some ups and downs through the course of last year. Then week 1 last week, he was the starting tight end. That continued this week into week 2. We know Mercedes Lewis is going to be the blocking tight end. Josiah DeGuara is going to be kind of that Swiss Army knife. I think they're going to have some specific plays in there for Jay Sternberger, like we saw on that play action where he had the drop early in the game. I think you're still going to see Sternberger utilized in those roles, but Tonyan seems like he's going to be more your overall tight end. Solid blocker, solid pass catcher. We saw some of the upside this week. Of course, he had the touchdown at the end of the second quarter, which was a really nice route. Nice job adjusting to the ball. It was a perfect ball by Aaron Rodgers, but it was a great anticipation throw. So by the time Tonyan turned around, the ball was on him, and he did a nice job making sure he secured that catch and a great touchdown right before halftime. And then he was a much better blocker this week. His routes were much crisper. This was the first time I saw Robert Tonyan put together an all-around performance. I know he did have the one, drop on a contested catch, or I think it was early in the first quarter. But outside of that, I thought this was by far Robert Tonyan's most complete performance. And you just love to see that, I think, from a tight end group where you're still unsure what you're going to get from Jace. Josiah DeGuara is a rookie. We know 100% what we're going to get from Mercedes Lewis, and a very strong blocking tight end, but not much as a receiving threat. If Green Bay can get this type of performance from Robert Tonyan going forward, that's really a huge win for this offense. We've seen the contributions from the running backs. The wide receivers have taken a step. Devontae Adams is one of the best in the league. The offensive line has played great, but that tight end group is really the one I think where the most questions remain. So again, anything that they can get, like a performance like Sunday against Detroit from Robert Tonyan, is a huge, huge plus for this offense. And again, it was great to see him put together that full performance through 4 quarters this past Sunday. The other topic that I wanted to get to today was this John Lovett, Taysom Hill topic. And of course, the Packers are playing the Saints, so we're going to hear some about Taysom Hill and the backstory with the Packers releasing him from preseason, or after training camp and preseason in his rookie year. Saints claiming him, having a lot of success. No question the Saints overpaid him this past summer, but he is a really unique, true Swiss Army knife. There are very few players in the history of football, if any, that have the versatility. Cordell Stewart comes to mind as having some of the same versatility, but obviously, Taysom Hill is able to be somebody who can, play a little bit of quarterback, run some wildcat, play H-back, fullback, tight end, be an actual receiving threat, which is incredible. They've handed the ball off to him. He plays special teams. He can be a gunner. So this is a player who has a ton of versatility. He also has a ridiculous amount of athleticism. He is explosive, he is fast, he is quick, he's got a strong arm. So there just aren't very many people like Taysom Hill. Now, is he great at anything outside of versatility? Probably not, but he's really good at a lot of things. And that player has a lot of value for you on your roster, especially when you have limited roster size. Anything that you can do to help the team gives you value, and he can do a ton of things to help your team. John Lovett, I just don't see that same type of versatility. Yes, I know he was a quarterback at Princeton. Yes, I know he's played some H-back and some fullback. Could probably play some tight end in a pinch. Could fill in some special teams roles. But this is not a player that you're going to be lining up in a Wildcat. In fact, if Green Bay went with Wildcat, I could make a strong argument that I'd much rather see guys like Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Devontae Adams, Jamal Williams. I think those guys would make much better Wildcat, quarterbacks than even John Lovett would, even though that he played some quarterback and did some power running at Princeton. I just don't see him having that type of effectiveness at the NFL level. Also, from a fullback H-back standpoint, yes, I think he's kind of like a C- Josiah DeGuara, but this week he was my lowest graded player on offense, and he's still kind of acclimating to the NFL level. This is a player who was cut by the Chiefs before even their cut down, so he still has a ways to go before he's even in the conversation, as a consistent player in the NFL, much less on the level of Taysom Hill, who can do a variety of different things. Does that mean that John Lovett can't be a really solid role player for the Packers moving forward? No, I think he absolutely has that ability. I think he can be a solid fullback and a solid H-back within this Matt LaFleur offense and be kind of that piece where if Josiah DeGuara can't go, John Lovett can fill in. I think this week was hopefully not indicative of what he's going to be going forward, but you would love to see him take a few more steps and be a better fullback and H-back before we start talking about what else can he do for the team. So as of right now, he is not even on the 53-man roster, and Green Bay's already used his 2 call-ups in the first 2 weeks of the season. So if they want him on the active roster again, they're going to have to move him to the actual 53-man roster. And if they waive him and try to put him back on the practice squad, he would have to go through waivers and be subjected to that for any other team to claim him. So let's not get too carried away with the John Lovett, Taysom Hill comparisons quite yet. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. Make sure to check out Jacob Westendorf and Maggie Loney on the extended edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Again, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. Also, make sure to check out my grades. My defensive grades are posted today on Thursday, so those should already be up for you. And tomorrow on Friday, the offensive grades will be posted as well. So make sure to give those a look, and I break down everything, grade every play from every player all season long. So it's great to check out those grades and see how players are kind of progressing, hopefully not regressing as the season goes along. Thanks so much. That does it for me. I'll see you tomorrow on an all-new episode here on YouTube. In the meantime, go Pack Go.